So John, can I ask you, what's your connection to the Laurel Ridge property?
It's my family's property. And to the, there are two properties, the one that the daffodils are on, which I guess what you're interested in right now.
Yeah.
And then the greater property, which is the result of several farms that my family acquired over the course of 60 years. I think that's the last time we bought something. But since they moved here in 1941.
Okay. So you mentioned, the portion of the property that's the daffodils. Could you talk a little bit about how those daffodils were established on the property and why?
So my parents moved here to start a farm, which they did. That was a dairy farm, but its real import was to, my father was Swiss, and he was a big proponent of brown Swiss cattle. He worked when he was a kid in Switzerland. And so he wanted to establish the breed in the United States and then produce very high quality cows, kind of a precursor to what Arethusa does, where they, although they sold milk, the main product was selling heifers to other farms and to get real champion cows in there. So they acquired the first piece of land in 1940, by the end of 40, and they moved here in 1941. And they started the farm probably in 1942 by the time they got everything built going. And at some point, there was a piece of land that where the daffodils are right now. It's very rocky. There's a lot of ledge there. The bottom part of one portion of it is very wet. It's not great for growing crops on. It's not even all that good for pasture. So my father wasn't using it, and my mother had long wanted a big stand of daffodils, and she literally said, I want to see the image that Wordsworth wrote about of 10,000 daffodils at a glance. So at some point, they literally bought 10,000 daffodils. Oddly enough, from the company, I think it's J. Schliepers, that is currently the U.S. part of it is associated with the daffodil operation in Bantam. Okay. And they planted the bulbs. When I say they planted, what I mean to say is the guys who were the hands on the farm planted them. And they ended up developing as it went into the late 40s and into the 50s, a very, how do you say, symbiotic timing relationship with the cycle of the farm. Because with daffodils, after you plant a daffodil, they double every year.
Right.
And after maybe 4 years, where you've gone from 2, 4, 8, 16, that clump of 16 needs to be separated. And they basically wait until the green, the leaf part has died off, and wait well after the bloom has died off. And then you go dig them up. So that's typically the last week in June. You put them in a cool, dry place out of the sun during the summer. And then in late October, you replant them. You separate them and replant them. And that corresponded to the cycles of the haying season, where your first cut is done sometime in the first 3 weeks of June, and your second cut doesn't happen until middle of August, and your third cut happens at the end of September, early October. So we had some excess labor, and so every year for a number of years, they would dig up and replant and replant. And you don't need to be too much of a mathematician to realize that 10,000 daffodils doubling every year, become a whole lot.
Whole lot. How many daffodils do you estimate are out there today?
So at the last recount, we counted 5,230,000. I'm kidding. I have
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
a lot of them.
Yeah, a lot. I think that's a fair way to describe it. A lot.
If I said millions, I don't think
I don't think you're wrong. Yeah. I mean, it's a really beautiful display every year. So you said that your mother really wanted to bring into life these words about 10,000 daffodils. When was there the shift of kind of public access to those and being opened up and encouraged for the public to go and appreciate that beautiful display that's been developed?
Simple response is I don't know exactly when. Okay. I was born in 53, so I can't tell you if it was 54 or 55.
Yeah.
I do know that we have a sign that we found in a barn that says Laurel Ridge Narcissi planting with an arrow, entrance 50 cents.
Oh, that's fantastic.
And the last time I did the math, I think it was like, that's equivalent to like an $8 entrance fee today.
Yeah.
And I don't know whether they stopped doing it because nobody came, or the answer is I don't actually know.
Yeah.
I know that from the time that I can remember, sort of 4 or 5 years old, that's sort of when I think my memory really starts up.
Yeah.
It was free, it was open, and clearly in those days, the planet has warmed, and in those days, peak daffodils were typically around to slightly after Mother's Day.
Okay.
Right around that time period. Now they're usually the last week in April. Okay, and in fact, by Mother's Day this year, I'd say they were definitely past their peak, and we'd seen all the yellows die out and some of the whites had started to die out. But in those days, we allowed people to come in before then, and there used to be a thing where on Mother's Day you could come in and pick flowers for your mother. Okay? We don't allow anybody to pick flowers now because it's too complicated to explain to people. It's okay to pick them, but it's not okay to pick now.
Yeah.
And also, it's remarkable the amount of damage that people will do when they're going over to pick them. I mean, they just tramp on everything.
So, I know that just even in my time going out to see them, because my spouse and I try to get out there, a nice peak time to see them, that there's just so many people from the community of Litchfield and the surrounding area that are out there really enjoying the daffodils, enjoying that beautiful rural landscape. What part do you think Laurel Ridge and that daffodil display really kind of plays in celebrating community or celebrating beauty?
I'd be hard pressed to say that we're celebrating community, except that we invite anybody there.
Yeah.
So it's the actual community is very widespread. We get people from New York and Massachusetts and further away. We get people who grew up in Litchfield and now live in far away, who will come back, and then the local people who come there.
Absolutely. So, kind of pivoting a little bit into the plein air and artistic view of this, Laurel Ridge is certainly a view that we know is often captured by artists in their artwork. It's such a changing view depending on the light, what's happening, as you kind of pointed out, depending on where you are in the blooming season of the narcissus. So could you maybe talk a little bit about either artists who go out and use that space, or specifically about your relationship with Kurt Hansen?
Well, there are artists who go out there. We some pretty strict rules about photographers. You know, like do not set up a photography studio in the middle of the daffodils. But for artists who were just out there with the palette, most of them were standing up, some of them were sitting on a little stool or something like that. You know, we don't have any rules. Virtually all of them are, you know, very respectful. I don't think we've ever had a situation of somebody being a bother who's out there trying to paint them. And, you know, they change big time in various lights of the day in the season. You know, Kurt Hansen is a different story. He was very talented landscape painter. We got to know Kurt when he had first moved to Litchfield. He was actually living in a cottage belonging to some friends of ours. And he and his son were living there, and as he was, you know, like 6 months old or something like that. And for whatever reason, that was no longer going to be available to him. And I also think he was, I'd have to think about it. I want to say this is in the 70s, but he was, you know, the definition of a struggling artist or a starving artist, you know, particularly with a second mouth to feed. Yeah. And my mother got to know him. She liked his artwork, and we happened to have a cottage on our property that became available. And so she basically said, I'll make you a deal. I'll give you free rent for one of your paintings per year. So that's, and when he...
Pretty good deal.
That's a pretty good deal. When he eventually got better known, and more importantly had developed an inventory of artwork. I mean, Kurt was out there, not just in the daffodils, but all over our property, painting pictures. And so when he would have a show, he would show his stuff. I know many people in our family. My wife and I bought a couple of his paintings at that time, and my mother also bought some of those paintings. So at the time that she died in 2004, I think she had a collection of 45 Kurt Hansens, which we actually had a very fun weekend with the family. I have 5 brothers and sisters. Some of them unfortunately no longer with us, but we got together and divided up the estate that she left us in equal shares. And we basically, you know, decided how we were going to allocate the pictures. So those pictures are all within the family.
Oh, that's wonderful.
So, and particularly for, I'm the only family member who still lives in Litchfield. My brother Radio passed away a number of years ago. His family, his widow lives here, but all the others have moved away. And when I've gone to visit them, everyone has 2 or 3 Kurt Hansens on their wall, and they're all pictures of the property that are, at least for us, they're very recognizable.
Yeah. Oh, that's wonderful. So to kind of close us out, what do you or your family hope that artists or visitors might take away after spending some time out on your very, very beautiful property?
I mean, for the most part, what we're looking for is just it to be that they can appreciate some beauty. You know, there are a lot of people, especially people who come from the city, and, you know, where we raise grass-fed beef. We have a farm stand that happens to be on one of the most beautiful parts of the property. My father had built a windmill in the early 70s, and it's got a, you know, incredible sweeping view. We'll get people from Connecticut who come up here and say, are you sure we're still in Connecticut? If you're talking about somebody who lives in Bridgeport, or, you know, one of the the towns with quarter acre zoning, where they're used to seeing a zillion houses. You know, it's we're fortunate in that property in that we're surrounded on three sides by the Waterbury Reservoir, and to the west beyond the Waterbury Reservoir is the Lake Memorial. So there's a lot of very undisturbed land, you know, is protected. So it's just a, you know, a nice. We're hoping, particularly right now, that the Daffodil property is owned by a private foundation. It's controlled by my family. But, you know, all of the family members are the trustees, and we basically maintain it to make sure that property's open. It's gotten more cumbersome in recent years with the traffic, because the traffic really, I mean, I'd say that the modern day curse is the influencer, because they'll take a picture of that and then post it and with directions on how to get there, and you know, which is fine. Maybe they get more people to come. We, as I said about the photographers, we actually now charge professional photographers. I mean, we have people who were going out on, you can find it very easily on Facebook and Instagram, setting up 45-minute photo slots, like 8 of them in a day, charging people $300 or $400 to you know, take pictures, and in many cases being kind of a nuisance to the other people who are trying to, you know, have fun and enjoy the place.
It's that balance of trying to encourage people to come and enjoy that, but not overextend.
And we've actually had to, we coordinated with the town of Litchfield because it's become sort of a traffic hazard. We actually had to put no parking signs up on one side of the road, because there are a lot of people who get to the country and they don't want their cars to have the tires have any mud on them. So when they park, instead of parking a little bit off the road, they park all 4 wheels on the pavement. And if you look at, our roads are 25 feet wide.
Right.
So if you're 6 inches in, you know, most cars are about 8 feet wide. You know, 8 feet wide plus 9 is 9 feet plus 8 is 17 feet on 25. There is room maybe for one car to go by. There is not room for a fire engine. There's not room for an ambulance. So we, as I said, we talked to the trooper in town, and that's why we restrict the parking.
That makes sense. So is there anything else, John, that you'd like to share?
No, I mean it's just I would say for people who come there, just be respectful, check the signs out. We don't want dogs. We don't hold a picnic, and enjoy yourself.
Wonderful. Well, thank you.
You're welcome.